All right, so the next item you get with ESC turned on is parentheses are optional for if, while loops, and select statements. So take a look at this while statement. So normally in Kontakt, you will need a parenthesis to for a while statement, but I could do this and say equals to, and compile that. So there you go. So you can see that for this while statement, I didn't have to put a parentheses in there. And what this does is it makes the code a lot easier to read and to maintain. The next option that you get with ESC is that for loops. Kontakt does not support for loops, only while loops. But with ESC, it allows you to use for loops. So let's take a look at a for loop. For I 0 to 9. Okay, so here as you can see, we have declared a for loop. Go ahead and compile that. Oops, sorry. Change text. So there you go. A for loop in Kontakt. Crazy, I know. Another thing that you can do with a for loop is you can also loop downwards or use a specific step size. So I can say 0 to 9. I can say start with 9. I can say start with 9. Then I can say go down to 0. So what this does is this will go backwards from 9 to 0. So what this will do a downwards loop. So start with 9, go down to 0. And optionally, I can add a step size. So just do step 3. And if I compile this, boom. Now if you want to see what this looks like, I'll go ahead and paste it in Kontakt. So this is what a for loops looks like in, oops. Let me, so this is what a for loop looks like in Kontakt after it's been converted. So you see the math that it did to handle the step. And so look how easy this is to read versus this. A lot better. Another option that you get with ESC is Elseif. For some strange reason, KSP does not support Elseif. If you use ESC, you get to use Elseif, and I like Elseif. I'm an Elseif kind of person. I think if you're doing if-thens, not elf, Christmas is over. Elseif is a logical function to use. So if we do x equals 1, we can do some work. We can say name equals Kontakt, and then we can say, actually, and the reason why it's not doing the end is because in Kontakt, the functions are all lowercase, so it doesn't recognize capital I and if, it just recognizes lowercase if. So if I hit enter now, as you can see, it recognized that and close it with the end if. So I can just say, do something, name equals Kontakt, and I could say else if X equals 2. Name equals ADSR. And I can go ahead and compile that. There you go. Elseif in Kontakt. So the next feature that you get with ESC turned on is called variable families. So KSP doesn't allow you to organize variables, but with ESC, variables can be declared as belonging to a family. Now this is similar to how classes are constructed in C# or C. Once a variable has been declared inside a family though, you just have to remember to always reference it by the fully qualified name. So let's take a look at how you can use family, which I think is an amazing feature. So if I say family and I say ADSR, I keep forgetting that that's turned on. So I can declare I can say massive. I can declare Kontakt. I can declare machine. Okay. So now what I can do is I can do something like this. I can reference this. I can say, actually, sorry, note. I can do something like ADSR dot Kontakt equals, where's my equal key? Equals yeah, I can do something like this. So there you have it. So that's how you can group variables into a family. The only thing you have to remember is when you reference the variable that's in a family, you have to call it by the fully qualified name, which is the family name dot variable name. All right, and another feature by turning the ESC on is user-defined functions. Okay, so this is a little bit okay, so user-defined functions. So natively, KSP supports user-defined functions. The problem with user-defined functions is that they don't support parameters, so you can't pass parameters to them, and they cannot return a value. So that's the limitation of a user-defined function. So the KScript editor supports this, so you can actually type in a function, and I can show you that right now. So I can do function raise all notes. So just as an example, so I can do change tune, all events. So I can do this, I can create this function, right? So this will just change the tune of all events by 12, raise notes all one octave, right? Oops. Control Z. So to call this function, I would just say call raise all notes one octave. And autocomplete is not working for me, so that's why I am typing it by hand. So I cannot pass any parameters when I call raise all notes one octave, which is a limitation because I can't reuse this function for other things. Typically, when you have a function, you want to be able to reuse it, and you want it to be flexible, so you allow it to pass in parameters and also allow it to return values. So maybe you want to do something, change some value, and then return the value, so that it makes code more logical and it makes it more clean. But unfortunately, with the built-in one, you cannot do those are the limitations. So ESC adds support for two types of user-defined functions: inline and task functions. Both inline and task functions are a little bit complex, and I think it's in the best interest of time to talk about this in a future tutorial. So don't fret. Well, we will get there, because I know everybody's favorite topic is functions. Okay, so one other thing that you need to know about functions is they're invoked using call, as you can see here, but Kontakt has some restrictions on the order in which you define functions. But when you compile, the KScript editor will automatically reorder the function definitions in the proper order, so you don't have to worry about that. The next feature of ESC is properties. So properties, a property is a type of a pseudo variable. So when you use a property name inside an expression, the property reference is placed by an invocation of the get function of the property, which is inline. And when you use a property name on the left-hand side of an assignment, the set function is automatically invoked, and the right-hand side expression is passed as a parameter. So properties, basically, if you're familiar with coding, you'll know how properties work with get and set. So ESC allows you to use properties, and allows you to use the get function of the property and allow you to use the set function of the property. So let's take a look at how you can make that work. So we are going to make a property called volume, and alright, so we are going to have a function for the get and a function for the set. So function get, we are going to get engine parameters. Alright, so I'm just getting the engine parameter. The parameter is engine volume. 1, -1, -1, and the function, which it is ended. Okay, so that's a get. Now we will work on the set. So function set value set engine parameter volume -1, -1, and function. So that is my property volume, and it has two functions in there, get and set. So how I use this is I need to invoke it. So let's say I use a message function. So I'll do message. Going to automatically okay, so I'm gonna use a message function. So volume and volume. Okay, so when you say volume, so here I am passing the property volume to the function message, which is basically expected a string. So what this will do is this will automatically call the get function. The get function will get the result from the get engine parameter call. So what this will do is return the volume of the current, the value of the current volume parameter. Okay, and then if I set volume to something, so if I do volume equals this, what this will do is this will set the volume. So what this will do is this will call the set function of the property, and it will call the set engine parameter volume and set it with the value. So the value is what I passed in. So that is how you use properties with ESC. A couple key notes that you should remember when using properties. You can also make properties behave like array variables, even if there's more than one index. If there's more than one index, you separate them by a comma. So the indexes are automatically paired up with the GetSet parameters from left to right. So based on how you have it laid out from left to right, it will call the GetSet. So if you have multiple indexes, it will go GetSet, GetSet, GetSet. So just remember that when you are coding using properties. And when using that multiple indexes, the last parameter of the set function is always going to be set. So get, set, get, set, get, set. The next feature of ESC is called macros. So these are similar to functions, but functions interpret the code inside the function body. Macros only perform a text substitution. So let's take a look at how you can write a macro. So you declare a macro. Let's put it outside the init. So macro declare button var text declare. My typing is so bad today. UI button. Okay. And set text var button text. So what this macro does is it does a text substitution of the button text. Okay, so to call it, all we do is we invoke it, declare button, and I see a typo here, and we replace the button text active with active, and that is how you use macro. There's a couple caveats of using macros. Macros can't invoke other macros, and macro parameters can be used more freely. So you can use them in declare statements, or you can use them as part of variable names. The only thing that you cannot use them inside of is inside strings. Okay. The next feature is hexadecimal numbers. So with ESC active, you can use hexadecimal numbers as long as you prefix them with 0x. So I can declare x, and I can set x to 0xFF. So that is how you use hex. All right, so the next feature of the ESC is called the import. Now what this does is this allows you to split up a script into separate files. You can import all functions and callbacks from scripts using the import keyword. Now when you use the import keyword, this is basically the same as replacing the import line with the contents of a given file. So if I do import my functions.txt, what this will do is this will import the file my functions.txt, and whatever is in that file will replace this entire line. So what this does is this allows you to share functions or put functions in a dedicated file that you can reuse. You can also, publish this online and let other developers reference them. And basically, to reference them, you will just use the import functions import directive. One cool thing about the import directive is that you can import a module into its own namespace. So what you do to do that is you just add as my function, for instance, right? So what this does is any variables that are in my functions or any calls, you can actually refer to them by my function dot variable. So this allows you to separate your variables that are in your script versus the ones that you import. Okay, and the final feature of turning ESC on is called Pragma. So Pragma lets you control how the compiler operates. It looks like a comment, but it is recognized by the compiler. Currently is limited. The only instruction the compiler has is save and then exempt variables. So you can do save compile source or preserve name. So let's take a look at this. So I think in the future Nils will probably add some more features to the Pragma function, but for right now it's limited, so you get what you get. But I think let's take a look at the first one. So if I do, let me put it right. So if I add a comment and add Pragma, save compiled source, and I put the well, you need to put the absolute path, but for purposes of this tutorial, I'll just say my script text. Okay, so if I just do that, what this will do is when I compile my script, it will save this into this text file that I specify here. And this is extremely useful because it makes it easier to update the script source in Kontakt. So if I was using, if I go to instrument options and I go to instrument, or actually not instrument, if I apply the script from, let's say a user from a file, right? And I save this and this publishes the script, it would actually automatically update here. I don't have to come back and say I don't have to come back and re-choose it. So that's a cool little feature that saves you a little time when you're using the KScript editor to get scripts here. The other thing Pragma can do is exempt variable names from compaction or obfuscation. So to do that, what you would do is you would have leave Pragma as it is, but you would use preserve names. And you need to specify the names of the variables that you want. So let's say I have my favorite variables, two variables that I'm in love with, x and y. And I don't want x and y to change. I don't want them to change when I compile. So what I can do is I can put a Pragma on. And then if I come here and declare some variables, so I declare x, I declare y, and then I declare z. So what happens is these the variables that aren't preserved will be translated into some other variable, to something that is more meaningful for Kontakt. And that's the other option you can use with Pragma. Of course, scripts can be edited in the Kontakt script editor, but it doesn't offer the flexibility and features of the KScript editor. The user interface is easier to work with, supports indentation, and has some important features such as callbacks and functions pane and the KSP reference pane. And the extended script syntax lets you code more efficiently and do things that's not currently possible in KSP. So if you're going to be serious about Kontakt scripting, the KScript editor is hands down the best tool. And don't forget to check out our website at www.kontakttutorials.com for more Kontakt tutorials and sounds. ADSR Kontakt Tutorials, supercharge your Kontakt skills. This is DJ Nice signing off until next time. Now go make some music.